Hi, my name's Charles. I'm non-binary. Um, I started hormone therapy 12 years ago, and I've been on and off ever since. I want to talk about some testosterone myths. And the reason for this is because ever since I've started testosterone, many people who are not transmasculine will tell me what testosterone is doing to me, or has done to me, or has changed me. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because I believe those people are wrong, and I believe the things that they were saying to me and are saying to other people are harmful. I believe that a lot of this testosterone hate is actually just comes from transphobia, and I never see people harping on cisgender men who also have a lot of testosterone the same way. However, I do think that a lot of testosterone myths do change the way that we see people. So, um, there is the biggest one is about sex drive. And the thing about sex drive is that it's a very complex issue. It's not just a black and white, like you have a high sex drive or you have low sex drive, or it's all the time. And so there's this idea that testosterone gives you a higher sex drive. And I don't know, maybe that's true. That didn't really happen for me. What happened was when you start hormone therapy, you're going through puberty. And most people, when they're going through puberty, have a heightened sex drive. They're more likely to experience arousal for no reason throughout the day and all this stuff. I have heard of some people who started T that say that they got like a really crazy high sex drive. Most of the time, it's because your level is wrong. So you need to get that checked out. And usually you need to either lower it, or sometimes if you have too low of a dose, that could be bad too. So check with your doctor if you have a super high sex drive and you feel like it's out of control, because it's probably just your dosage, not the hormones itself. A lot of people I know that had struggled with the puberty sex drive were people who already had a high sex drive. Meaning the people I know that had a low sex drive before T, they still had a low sex drive. When they started T, it's just there's like a little spike. Sometimes, for me, it lasts like 2 to 3 months. Some people, I think it lasts longer. Um, so, if you are starting testosterone and you are scared by your spike in sex drive, it's likely not permanent. And um, if you feel like you're going to put yourself or other people at risk, simply just lower your dose. Go to your doctor, lower your dose. I've only heard one trans man say this, but he said that he saw women as objects after starting T. And I'm just like, honey, I think you probably did that before you started T. I don't think that testosterone does that to you. Um, but that's the problem, is that all trans masculine people are different. Testosterone really, I don't believe, changes the personality all that much. Mostly what it changes is your physical appearance. And so, to me, when I transitioned, I was just kind of like, oh, like at first I had to really spend a lot of time breaking down my gender stereotypes that I had in my head. And if I hadn't medically transitioned, I don't know if I would have ever done that. Or at least, it would have been a lot harder since it wouldn't have been so obvious to me. But when I first started T, I actually got really hard into the stereotypes and the testosterone myths, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna cry again, and you know, uh, I don't know. I really believed all the stuff that people told me about testosterone. And then I think what happened is that I stopped testosterone. And, when I first started taking testosterone, people were just like, oh, you do this, you're angry, you're an asshole, you blah, 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 you're so aggressive. And it's just like, honey, I don't know if you remember me before testosterone, but before testosterone, I was always rowdy. I would say whatever was on my mind all the time. I was very rude, disrespectful, and I raised my voice whenever I wanted. And of course, I got criticized for that. I was called dramatic and stuff. Um, but testosterone did not do that to me. In fact, taking testosterone was very humbling for me, because when you're voice deepens, even though my voice is like a really mid-level voice. It's not a deep voice by any means. And a lot of the times it's so androgynous that people have a hard time reading my gender. However, since it is deeper than it was, people automatically are going to perceive the things that I say as more aggressive, and they're going to perceive me as a scarier person. And so I just had to kind of deal with that, and that was actually really helpful for me because it helped me have the motivation to emotionally regulate. Because what would happen is after testosterone, I'd get in the same kind of conflicts that I did before testosterone, and I would, be doing the same sort of things, flipping out, not regulating myself, fighting with people, and, just yelling. And then what happened when I started getting read as a man is that I was actually really ostracized, and, I would face a lot more physical violence. People would threaten to call the cops on me a lot more. And so it's not that the behavior changed, it's just that a lot of people just don't want to tolerate that shit from men. And I believe this because people say that. They'll just be like, for example, I saw a tweet the other day where this guy was like talking about how another trans masculine guy was being ostracized from like the lesbian community. And he was just like, you probably were shitty before the testosterone, and now people are just not tolerating the same behavior from a man. And I'm just like, yeah, that is totally it. In a weird twist, misogyny can often kind of hide toxic behavior. So when I talk about this, I do think that, a lot of the behavior that I was exhibiting when I was in my teenage years and in my early 20s was toxic, as they call it, and the fact that it was harmful to myself, to people around me, and it wasn't really resolving any of the conflicts. It was just escalating the conflicts. So when I started being held more accountable for my actions, I really was motivated to, go to therapy, learn how to emotionally regulate so that I didn't end up fighting all the time, and also to be less dependent on other people. I didn't really realize kind of how much I depended on people, and when you're bred as a man, you're really, if you're dependent on other people, you better have a good excuse because you're mostly going to be seen as a parasite. For some reason, it's just one of those other things that I never knew about before starting testosterone. Socially, one of the biggest changes was just the fact that people were more likely to support me, give me help. Like, for example, when I was assaulted before testosterone, people never questioned it. I would have people go up to the people who assaulted me and just like punch them in the face, And after testosterone, people literally told me that I wasn't getting assaulted, and they didn't believe me. And a lot of them told me that I was assaulting the people that were assaulting me. And so it was kind of like a mind fuck a little bit because I was always told that people don't believe women. And then once I started testosterone, I was actually less likely to be believed. And so it kind of opened up a can of worms that I still haven't really fully processed. I'm just starting to speak about it now again. And I realize that a lot of people who start testosterone, they'll make their, YouTube videos for a couple of years and then they'll disappear. And I think this is why. I think that I got to a point where I just lost my mind. And everything that I was saying, when I was first transitioning, I realized that I didn't even know if it was true or if any of the things that people were telling me were true. And so now I'm going to try and tell a little bit more of my story.